Good morning. Just had a question from a client, and I think it's telling for a lot of people out there who are in the midst of a Social Security disability claim or SSI claim. I'm curious, if you have been waiting and it's over 6 months since you applied, what are your thoughts on it? Does that seem like a long time to you, or does that seem like not a long time to you? We are seeing people, the particular client that asked me this morning, um, about, what's going on. And I think we'd already touched on this a few months ago, uh, he and I, because he filed over a year ago now. I mean, we're over a year on initial. Now, I wasn't there on initial. So I don't know, potentially that could have something to do with it, but I don't necessarily think so. I mean, yes, I think if I do the filing, it's going to be a lot smoother. Things can run easier, but not in the area that I think is causing these delays, this particular delay. I see, and this is not the only case, this person's on initial for over a year. I see, because I can get into the electronic file that the SA has on the person once I'm their attorney. I see that there was some activity the first, say, month or so after the application was complete and got moved from the field office completely out of there up to the medical workup office, which is an entirely different office and entirely different workers. As I've mentioned before, your field office does not decide if you're disabled. They only decide if you meet all the requirements to apply and try to prove your case. So there was apparently, I think, an adjudicator, because what I could see in the file was that requests went out with the claimant's signed HIPAA form that you give to the SSA when you apply. You also give another one updated when you appeal. And they send copies of that out to various medical providers they are told about. So in his instance, told about in his application. And those requests did go out. And I did see that a couple providers responded and sent in medical records. And when they do that, I think it's generally with a barcode attached as per the directions they receive when they get the request. So there is no necessarily a human body that needs to do anything with it. It's got the barcode, they fax it in, and it goes right to the proper claimant's file. And it's right in there. No human eyeballs need to be on it. And what it looks like has happened, and this is not the only one that I have like this, it looks like the adjudicator that had been on it, perhaps, and had sent out the request to the initially provided providers from the application, perhaps quit or lost the job. I'm gonna guess it's the prior. I'm gonna guess it's a quit. And that case then had no adjudicator and can't have an adjudicator until they find an adjudicator that can take on another case. The problem is there is such a shortage now. This is the first time I've seen this in 20 years that I've been doing it, almost 20 years. It has never been horrible at the initial and recon levels. It was horrible at the ALJ level historically until about 2019, when some brilliant people apparently decided that they were going to allow hirings to take place at the ALJ level. This is my understanding. ALJ for hiring the administrative law judges as well as decision writers, who are the ones that facilitate the decision writing after the judge makes the decision. So, and that's an arduous process, I'm sure. So while the ALJ longevity had been horrible, I'm talking years of wait after you actually appealed for the hearing, which means you've already had your case going for probably almost a year between initial and recon. That was then. And that back then, the SSA used to say, oh, your initial, everything will take about 4 months. And then if you have to appeal for recon, oh, it'll probably be about 4 months. That was the standard answer. And of course, it wasn't always 4 months. It was often 6 months, say, but still within that, that level of time. And now we're seeing the ALJs had been super fast. Again, I saw it starting around 2019, thanks to some smart federal government action at that time. And now, not going to speak to the ALJ wait times right now because that seems to be in flux. I see some fast. I see some not as fast, but not bad like they used to be. The initial and the recon is a horror show. And my understanding, and you could see there's a ton of news articles on this. The turnover rate, first of all, apparently, and there's a lot of scuttlebutt on this, they're short-staffed. Are there a lot of people applying? There always is. But they are short-staffed because there's been a lot of turnover, a lot of quits where people just don't come back, which I find phenomenal, not in a good way, because federal jobs, who didn't want that? Give me that, where you have full benefits, a pension, things that I could never dream of as a self-employed person. I mean, who wouldn't want that? So they are having trouble hiring. I don't know if it's because people don't appreciate those benefits that come with the salary. I don't know if the salary is maybe not competitive with the private sector, which wouldn't be very unusual because usually your kit and caboodle was in your benefits. But maybe now that the 22-year-olds, they get to stay on mom and dad's insurance policy till they're 26 in a lot of places, maybe they don't care about that stuff. Hey, pay me a lot or I'm out of here. I don't know the answer. There was the great resignation that occurred with the COVID phenomena and how policies were set at that time. Some people, I understand, quite a few are still relying on stimulus and, whether legitimate or not, COVID relief payments. So a lot of people, maybe being short-sighted, don't feel the need to go back to work. Maybe when they run out of the money, they will go back to work. I don't know. There's so much scuttlebutt about it, and you don't really know what to believe. But it is a fact that they are at record lows. And apparently, I saw something about they haven't been that low in about 25 years. I saw another one that mentioned 14 years. So I don't know what the accurate answer is, but there is such a shortage. And I also believe it is likely true that in some way, shape, or form, the budget has not been accommodated to hire at the levels they need to hire. So when they do hire, we see, so it just seems like nobody's trained. Probably the people that would be the experienced, smart ones that know their field a little bit, at least their little nook and cranny of it. Few and far between are they left, perhaps. Maybe they have the opportunity to take that retirement and get out, since things are just not fun when they're run by the federal government, at least not now. So the shortage of workers at the initial and recon is causing some cases to sit stagnant at the DDS, the medical workup office, and not even be worked up. I have seen a person have to do 2 function reports on initial because of the gap in time between the beginning when they were first asked and then later on when a new adjudicator was finally able to take the claim and work it up, they asked for a new function report. And I understand that. Yeah, I think that's appropriate because if you're, a lot can happen in 6, 8 months, from the time of the first function report to the, 8 months later when they're back working on the claim. And we're just talking on initial. We're not talking on reconsideration, which, by the way, they're doing secondary function reports and reconsideration too. And that was never something that was done before. But because of these long delays, they absolutely feel they need to ask the claimant if things have changed, things have gotten worse, things have gotten better once they appeal. Another interesting thing that concerns me going forward, Commissioner O'Malley recently made a statement, and I was just reading it this morning, that he is seeking to largely eliminate the extent of remote working for probably like management types and headquarters and such, less so on the front lines, which is understandable because on the front lines, and I assume they mean in the field offices, people walk in there, you have to have a human body. It's probably not going to work so well if it's like McDonald's or all these restaurants, fast food restaurants that are run by robots and there's no humans to speak of taking care of customers. Um, so I'm concerned that with forcing people to go remote, and by the way, I'm a full supporter of an employer making that decision for their business interests as they deem fit. It could be good, it could be bad, but it's their business and their decision. The chips will fall. If they make a bad decision, they're going to lose good staff. So, you know, that's how that works. We can all walk with our feet, right? Get a different job. And I do think you start doing that with uh, well-trained people, perhaps those in management that have worked their way up. Uh, a lot of them, I think, my speculation is that they will walk. If they have their pension in hand, they've been there for 20 years or whatever the requirement is, um, they could laterally move or upwardly move with their experience to something else. They don't need those benefits anymore to the same extent because they have their pension, and other companies also offer healthcare. So if you have a private sector company that allows you to remotely work from home because your job is electronic to begin with, um, why would you want to stay if you have to commute into an office? I mean, people are commuting, half hour and 20 minutes to get to work. To continue that and not look at that as a huge expense on the employee that they can avoid and all that money they save. I don't understand why that wouldn't be allowed. It's so easy to monitor someone working remotely. The productivity is either there or it's not. So it's super easy. The savings, I think, both to the employee for not having to commute and to the government. I mean, geez, think about all the cars not on the road, the emissions, the environment. I mean, come on now, walk the walk if you're going to scream about it all the time. Um, I just don't understand why they would. And it was supposedly in the name of getting a handle on operations because apparently they don't have it yet. And I understand that because they just came in, the new commissioner. So I can't expect him to have a total handle on it. But I don't know that eliminating the remote work um, options for the employees that work electronically anyway is the answer. I think that's a big fail. And I could see a lot of turnover happening from that because that has become something that people really appreciate. The ones that have the type of jobs that are amenable to it. And there's been I do not believe any credible studies to show that work product goes down. And honestly, if work product did go down, it probably was down when they were working in person and they probably need to be canned. So maybe they need to change the old rules about how federal jobs are a property right and you have to have due process to can somebody. Maybe get rid of that rule. But yeah, I could just see more people walking away, you know. They have the ability to get remotely working uh, from a private sector company or a different government agency that doesn't feel the need to make people trek into the office that don't need to be there to get their job done. Anyway, there's a lot to that. And I know we see that also in companies. And again, I'm all for an employer. That's their decision. But I think a lot of them are seeing that that's going to be one that's going to hurt their workforce. People are going to leave and they're going to lose good talent. So anyway, we'll see what happens. But it is a train wreck and our cases are taking a really long time. It really depends on the case. It's not across the board. It's not even across one office necessarily. Although I would tend to gather that it might be more focused by office. But they need to do something to retain these people. And I don't think getting away with, forcing them to come in when they wouldn't otherwise have to and they could still get their work done is the way to really attract those people. I am so sorry for the delays that are going on. It drives me crazy. It hurts, just so you know, it hurts people who make a living as representatives, attorneys and non-attorney reps, quite significantly, and many of them are leaving the field also. Funny thing, that's the SSA right there, so I got to take this. I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.